morning.
Good morning to you. The headline on this appears to be that any lawyer who is found to be coaching or indeed submitting fraudulent asylum claims could face life imprisonment. Is that true? Life imprisonment? I mean, I've got an example here. Craig Couch was convicted of murdering his 10-month-old stepson, given life in prison. Thomas Cashman sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Olivia Pratt-Corbell. And this morning you're saying that lawyers, and perhaps even in future doctors and accountants who help illegal migrants, might face life imprisonment?
Well, I think it's important to understand that there are a number of offences which carry life imprisonment. Robbery carries life imprisonment, for example. GBH with intent carries life imprisonment. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's a sentence that's imposed in particular cases. And indeed, life imprisonment has been the case under the Immigration Act 1971 since, well, for 50 years or so. But look, the central point is this, that the overwhelming majority of lawyers in this country do a fantastically important and worthwhile job. We've got the second biggest legal sector in the world, and it's something that, as a nation, we can be very proud of. But there is a small minority of lawyers that behave illegally, and that does terrible damage to the reputation of lawyers, but also means that some individuals who have no right to be in the UK end up remaining in the UK because of dishonest means that have been employed by lawyers. That's completely unacceptable. And so what we're ensuring is that our ability to hold them to account, to bring them to justice, is increased. And that simply preserves the reputation of lawyers and ensures that the excellent work they do can continue in the normal way.
By your own admission, it's a small minority. It's a big headline for a small minority, and frankly, to many people, might just seem like a very good distraction from the fact that the backlog is going up and you are not able to deal with it properly. And you've been in power for almost 14 years. Well,
of course, it is a small minority, but they do a disproportionate amount of harm, as I say, because it can mean that individuals who have no reason to be in this country and potentially are a threat to the country, who shouldn't be here, are here because of dishonesty. So although it's a small minority, they can have a disproportionate impact. But look, there is a wider issue as well, which is that we are determined through the Illegal Migration Act, which is now law, to ensure that those who have arrived illegally shouldn't be able to jump the queue compared to those who have played by the rules and done the right thing. The UK is an open, humane and fair nation. We've offered support and accommodation to 400,000 people since 2015, whether people have come from Ukraine or they've come from Afghanistan or they've come from Hong Kong. We have open hearts, but we want to have a secure front door. And it's absolutely fair that those who arrive illegally should either be returned to their home country or indeed to a safe third country. That, we think, is fair, it's reasonable, it's proportionate, and we think it's the right approach.
Can I just ask you about that,
Sure.
about illegal behaviour and the role of your department? Because your statistics show that people, we're talking here about gangs who assist in the entry of illegal immigrants, compared to 2015, when the problem was nowhere near as big as it is now, there's actually been a 23% fall in the number of gangs of individuals being convicted for assisting the entry of illegal immigrants. Why has there been a more than 20% fall in convictions when the problem's got worse?
Well, I think a couple of things to say. First of all, I'm not sure I recognise that statistic, but put that to one side.
They were from the MOJ, so they were your statistics.
But it's important to note that, of course, actually the techniques have changed. So in the past, there was much more of a tendency for people to come in the back of lorries, for example, and then the people traffickers decided to change their tactics and move on boats across the channel. But the central point is this. We want to absolutely make sure that we do everything we can to hold people like that to account. So that means ensuring that there is relevant, admissible evidence that is obtained. Because here's the really important point, that people traffickers, once they've taken the money off these people, they don't care whether those individuals live or whether they die when they get into those dinghies. And it's an appalling state of affairs. And that's why we want to do everything possible to crack down on those people traffickers and on that tiny minority of professionals who want to aid and abet illegality. It's not acceptable, and we're going to come down hard on it.
Can I ask you about another thing, to see if you recognise this? We've talked a lot in recent months about weaknesses in the probation system. The Chief Inspector, very critical of, in the Damien Bendell case, also Jordan McSweeney, who was released and then on parole and then murdered Zara Alina. The Daily Mail reported yesterday a contract issued in your name seeking to improve recruitment through the MOJ. And the advert for that recruitment, according to the Daily Mail, says in your name, prison and probation staffing is approaching dangerously low levels. How have you got into a situation when the probation service is under such pressure and there's these terrible cases that you yourself are telling people applying for contracts that you've got approaching dangerously low levels of prison and probation staff? What's gone wrong?
Well, let me just say on prison staff, we have increased the number of prison staff by around about 4,000 since 2016. In the last quarter, an additional an additional 600, and we've ensured that, for example, that pay is going up by 7% as well. They do an extraordinarily important job. But look, there's no doubt that because that's why we are committed to having an additional prison expansion scheme. So we're bringing on 20,000 places, and we need to recruit. We need to hang on. We just need to recruit as many. We need to recruit prison officers to staff those prisons, and that's incredibly important because we are committed to this very important.
A direct question. The Daily Mail yesterday reported that in your name, your department said prison and probation staffing is approaching dangerously low levels. Was the Daily Mail right that is what you said?
That should not have been published, and it's not the position. The position, as I indicated, is because the estate is expanding. So we've opened 5 wells, HMP 5 wells, HMP Foss Way. We plainly need to recruit prison officers to staff that larger estate, and that's why we're on a recruitment drive to do so.
So the Daily Mail was right to report that you had said prison and probation staffing is approaching dangerously low levels, but that was a mistake. And have you now corrected that contract?
So, yeah, the position is that we have made, that was published in error, but the central point I want to make is this, is yes, we're recruiting. I make no apologies for the fact that we're recruiting. The number of probation officers has gone up by 4,000 or so, similarly with prison officers, and we're recruiting because we have a very ambitious plan to increase the number of prison places. As I say, we've got HMP 5 Wells, HMP Foss Way, there's a new prison, HMP Millsike, which is being built as well. This is the most ambitious campaign of prison building since the Victorian era. These are safe, decent, rehabilitative prisons, which means that we can keep the British people safe and ensure that prisoners are rehabilitated at the same time.
You're not recruiting because you're approaching dangerously low levels of prison and probation staff, although the advert in your name did say that you are approaching dangerously low levels of prison and probation staff.
We always want to recruit more staff, and as I say, that's what we're doing. The point I'm seeking to get across is that we're recruiting because the demand is higher. We want to have more prison places, which is what we're doing. Therefore, you need to staff them, and that's really the central point I'm making.
Okay.
Alex Chalk, thank you so much for joining us.
Very
much. And I think it's your birthday today. Am I right?
Oh,
happy
it is.
Birthday. Happy birthday.
If we were Matt Hancock, we would sing to you in a white pair of shorts, but Alex, we're not going to.
That is a treat that is going to be denied me, Ed, but thank you for thinking of it.
Good. You are definitely going to be denied on that one.